Hey, what is going on everybody, and welcome back to the channel. So in this episode we're going to take a look at request forwarding in Rocket in Rust. Alright, so let's get straight into it. So this is the code that we created in the previous episode. So we're going to extend that, and we want to start off by declaring a new struct, and we're going to call it user, and we want the user struct to have the fields that we might want to access in our pages. So we want this to have the ID, so that's going to be I64, and also a username, and that is going to be a string like so. And then we want to implement we want to implement from request, and we just want the same parameters like so for this user struct. And in this implementation right here, we want to gather all of the user data. So for us, that's the ID and the username before we finish the request. So first of all, we want to declare in an error, and that's just going to be empty like so. And then we want the function from request, and that's going to take a request, and that's going to be a reference to a request like so. Let's see, that looks pretty good. And then we want this to give us a outcome. Outcome, and that is either going to give us a user or it's going to give us an error. So that's this error right here, so something like so. And we want to declare the username, that's going to be equal to the request, and then we want to get the cookies. Let's see, cookies like so. And we want to get the private cookie called session token like so. And then we want to map that cookie. So map the cookie. And in here we want to check if the user is in the sessions table, or actually if the session token is in the session table. So we're going to use episode 24 and then the schema for users sessions like so. We want the DSL and all of them like so. Then we're going to establish a new connection, so let connection equals establish connection, and we're going to just declare the results, and that is going to be from the users sessions. And we want to filter the token to be equal to the cookie up here, then the value of that cookie to a string. So essentially all we want to do is we want the token in the database to match our cookie token right here, and then we also just want to limit this to 1, and we want to load all of this into a user's sessions like so. And we want to use our connection that we created up here. And finally, we need this to expect that error loading sessions like so. Alright, so this does not auto format, but I'm just going to format it a little bit better. So that looks just a little bit better. So now we want to check if this result, if the length of that is 1, so essentially if we got a match, and if we did get a match, then we want to use episode 24, the schema for users, and we want the DSL and just grab all of them like so. And then we want to let results again, so we're just going to redeclare that, and that's going to be equal to the users this time. And we want to filter the ID, so the user ID, that is going to be equal to the results, and we're going to index the first one. and then the user ID. So essentially we're going to take the user ID that matched with this session token right here, and then we're just going to grab the user for that. And then we want to limit this to 1 as well. And we want to load all of this into the users struct. And we want to use our connection like so. And finally, of course, we need this to expect to error loading users like so. And then once again, we want to check if the results.length is equal to 1. So we're just making sure that we got a user back. We want to return some, and then it's going to be a user. And we want the ID, so the ID is going to be results. So this is the user, and result0.id. Sorry, that should be like so. And the username is going to be results, and we want to index 0 dot username, and we just want to clone that like so. And if the result is not 1, we want to return none. And we want to do the same thing up here. So else return none. And then finally, we want to match this username up here. So we're going to match the username. And if we get some, let's see, some user ID, then we also need to match this. So match the UID. And if we get some user here, then we want to return and use the outcome and success. And we also want to send in this user right here like so. And if we get a none, then we want to return outcome is forward. And then we want to do, sorry, like so. Then we want to do the same thing here. So if this doesn't match, we want to return outcome forward like so. So let's try recompiling that code. So obviously we forgot to import a couple of different things. So for example, this outcome here, the from request, and so on. So let's import that now. So we want to use the rocket request, and then from the request we want to use the actual request, the from request, and the request like so. We also want to use rocket outcome. So try recompiling the code again. And now you can see we got an error here regarding this struct user up here, and also this struct user here. So let's change this down here to user form, and I'm just going to paste that in wherever we use that. So here and here, and also here and here. Alright, so I'm gonna recompile it again. So this time our code compiles just fine. So we want to start actually using this from request for user. And where might we use this? Well, we could start by using it in the index right here. So you can see we do the match get user ID from cookie to check if the user is logged in or not, but there is another preferred way to do this in Rocket. So I'm just going to copy all of this like so and paste it in down here, and we want to say get, and then rank is going to be equal to 2, and then we want to remove all of this like so, and we also want to remove up here all of this, let's see, all of that. So save that, and then before we recompile, we want to add up here, let's see, we forgot to remove this first of all, and we also want to remove this mutable cookies, and we want to change it to user, and this is going to be of the user type, and since we're not actually using this, you should prefix this with a underscore like so. Alright, so now try recompiling your code. So obviously we get a lot of errors due to the fact that this function is called user, and this function is called index, and this function is also called index. So let's change this one to index no login, and then we want to go down into our routes and just add this route here. So save and recompile. So now this has compiled and it's running just fine. So we want to change this up a little bit down in this index right here, because we don't want it to use the we don't want to use the index.html.terra. So we're going to create a new file in the templates folder. I'm just going to call that loggedin.html.terra, and then I want to copy everything from this index right here. So I'm going to paste that in, and then I want to remove this form, and that's about it. So you can close that file, and now you want to recompile. So now that Cargo has compiled our files, you want to open your browser, and that is going to take you to this login page. So I'm just going to log in with my credentials like so, and we get an internal server error, and this is due to the fact that we forgot to change this to, instead of rendering the index, we want this to render the logged in, because it's expecting a CSRF token right here. So recompile again, and now that this has compiled, you want to go into your browser again, and in here you want to enter your credentials once more. So I entered my credentials and it says login failed. Let's see, maybe I entered the wrong credentials. Yes, I did. Alright, so now you can see I'm logged in here. So we want to move down into this sign up page right here, because as you can see, we also use this get user ID from cookies down here. So how can we change this? Well, start by removing this get user ID from cookies, and remove that. And then you want to copy this code once again and just repeat the process. So remove this and then the error, because we don't need this to be a result anymore. We can just have this be a redirect like so. And we want to change this to use the underscore user, and down here we want this to just remove all of this and also this, and finally we want to remove the result, because this is going to give us a template, and of course the OK as well. Alright, so now that all that is removed, of course we need to add the ranks here. So rank is going to be equal to 2, and this is going to be sign up page, let's just say no login once again. So we need to have this function down in our routes, so that is going to be like so. And since we're not using this get user ID from session token or get user ID from cookies anymore, we can just delete these two functions, and hopefully you guys find this to be a lot more clean, that you need the user to exist for this endpoint to be valid, otherwise it's going to go to the next rank. So there are a couple of different outcomes. Of course, the success outcome and also the forward. And there's a third one that's called failure. And if you use the outcome failure, then it's not going to go on to the other ranks, it's just going to fail. So since we're using the forward, it's going to try this rank 1 or the highest rank. And if this doesn't work because the user doesn't exist, it's going to move on to rank 2, and then it's going to try that, and so on and so forth. Alright, so try recompiling your code again. So your code should compile just fine, so go into your web browser and log in once again. So password, and then I'm going to go to the sign up endpoint. And as you can see, this brings me straight back into the root. So that is it for this video. Good luck and happy coding.